Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound podcast. I'm your host, Nadeina, head of growth at saas.group, a serial acquirer buying wonderful SaaS businesses to take them to the next level. And here I chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. So today with me, Sophie, CEO and founder of NOQX, a platform that enables organizations to set, visualize, communicate, and execute their goals with clarity and alignment. And I think that's a beautiful mission. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Anna. I am excited to join you today.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's start maybe a bit with your background, just like in 1 minute. Who's Sophie?
Yeah, so I am Sophie. I'm 37 years old. I am born and raised in Sweden, and currently I live in Stockholm with my family. I've been working in SaaS, software as a service, for the last 13 years now. I started within Meltwater, a global big SaaS company, in 2011, and I had different commercial roles at Meltwater. So I was doing sales in the beginning, then I was managing director and taking care of the new acquisition team, and I was then heading to marketing role. So I was head of marketing in the Nordics when I left Meltwater approximately nine years later. So I left Meltwater in 2020. And then I became the chief marketing officer at the Netigate, which is also a SaaS company. And there I have been for the last 3.5 years. And now I'm starting up my own business together with my co-founders Matilda and Robert, and we are building an goal-setting platform that makes goal setting fun and enjoyable for employees as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you. All right. So, that's quite an experience. And, like you said, you're very early stage. But yeah, what was the inspiration behind it? Like, how did you decide that goal setting is something that teams, companies would like to solve?
So if I back the band for many years, I've been really interested in like organizational structure and efficiency, and that everyone knows what to do, and that everyone is excited about what they do. So I think that came quite early in my career, that I like to structure things. I want to have like oiled machinery where people are excited to work towards the goal as well. And I have seen many different companies how they work towards goals as well. And it's not always the case that it is very clear what is expected from you in your role. I came from sales in the beginning, and in sales, it's very clear what to do. You have a monthly target, and that is breaking down to how much you should sell for every week, and how many calls you should do, how many booked meetings you should have, how many conducted meetings you should have, how many offers you should get out, and so on. So I think in sales, it's very clear on a shorter time horizon what to do. And then I saw other departments, they didn't have as clear goals, perhaps. So, there's many different departments. It could be finance, HR, marketing, tech, engineering, and all of this department works slightly differently. And in my last position I had, I was responsible for OKRs, objectives and key results, and how the company goals was translated into the teams, and the teams got it out to the individuals. And I got my first lessons on how difficult it is to get the goals out in the organization. And while I was responsible for the OKRs, I was researching different platforms and tools, and I found none that was really, engaging and enjoyable for employees to work with. So the ones I found was more kind of, the management team was pushing goals out in the organization, and it wasn't a nice, enjoyable experience. So that is really our vision in NOQX, to make goal setting fun and engaging and inclusive. And yeah, that's a little bit of the background.
Okay, that's perfect. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, in sales, it's a super clear path, like what goals you're supposed to get. But in other departments, it might not be as easy. But I also want to ask about your role as a founder, because this is your first venture, and I just assume that it's a bit of a change to what you're used to. So, for you, what is the biggest challenge in becoming a founder?
So I would say it's the different hats I wear every day. So I am very involved with the product development, the platform, how it's evolving, both the vision of it and here and now, what we should build here and now for towards customers. And I've been doing fundraising as well. We actually closed a round very recently. Fundraising, and of course talking to customers, that is most important, like selling the platform. I am also doing marketing, like content, website, SEO, um, doing legal and financial things as well. So it's a lot of different hats that I wear as a founder. I think it's a lot of fun though, but it is a lot to focus on, and really I need to spend my time now on closing deals. So yeah, it's that has been the challenge to be an expert in many different areas.
What is the most difficult, do you think, for founders in this journey from 0 to 1, from like basically just registering the domain to getting your first customer?
Oh, it's such a variety of work that you do, and it depends on the competence you come with. So I have had a commercial background, which is sales and marketing, and I feel quite comfortable when it comes to sales and marketing strategy and execution. But when it comes to legal and just accounting things, and you need the company to be in a good shape when it comes to that kind of structure as well. And that is something I learned. So, but I think yeah, it's the variety, and you need to know yourself and what you're good at. I cannot become a lawyer, in a few months. So maybe outsource when you need to outsource, and try to do as much as you can yourself. But where you don't have the competence, you don't have the time to become, like a expert in everything.
Right, absolutely. But you have a small team, right? It's two co-founders. Do you work with anybody else, or is it just you three for now?
So with the engineering team is 3 people, and we have Matilda and I and Elin as well. So we're 6 people working full time, and then we have investors and advisors. So around the company, we are 13 people now. So yeah, uh, some
Okay.
support with the advisors as well.
All right. So, and I mean, I just assume that in your previous jobs, you've had some experience hiring people, but maybe it is a bit different for your own company, for your own startup, and especially since you're hiring engineers, it's a bit of a different journey. So, how do you approach hiring for a startup that is that young? And maybe just another part of that question is, do you think it's important to kind of start building the culture of that company, because it's, yes, mostly focus right now is on the product, but if you're growing, and since you have raised around, I would assume you will be growing soon, how important is it to also focus on the company and the culture inside?
I think we are really setting the culture and the foundation now. Like, what is the vision of the platform? What is the vision of our company? What do we want to achieve together? How do we want to work together? How do we celebrate victories? I think a lot of the foundation we actually set is setting right now, and I think that is something that really excites me. Culture. I cannot be in a company where I'm not, really passionate about the people I work with and how we work together. And that is something I would say is defining the culture at least a little bit. So I would say that is why I also started my own business, that I want to be part of the culture where, for me at least, and I think I can speak for Matilda and Robert as well, um, where you can make decisions fast, you can work fast, you can iterate later. No one will get angry or mad at you if you make a decision, because you rather make decisions and move fast. Yeah, so I think that is something that we have. Like our we actually have these values: fast, focus, fun, and I think that means something for us. You know, when you come into a company and you hear the company value, sometimes it could be, yeah, it sounds nice, but you cannot really take them into your heart. But I think now, when we are a startup, I do think we can take these three words to our heart. It actually means something for us every day. Like, we are really fast, we focus and get things done, and we also want to have fun during our journey.
Okay, that's. I think that those are great values, and they really fit, the startup culture. So, a little more about the product, right? It went to the platform, and I saw that for now, as far as I understand, you only offer a demo, so it's not really possible to get a look at the product. So why did you decide that you're going to be just sales driven, and at this first stage you want to talk to every customer who wants to interact with the product?
So I think fairly soon we will offer product-led growth, which means you can sign up on the website and come straight into our platform. I think it will happen. I mean, shouldn't say a date here and now, but it should happen fairly soon. And that is something we believe in will be the big accelerator for us in 2 years from now, or slightly later on. But I think, as you said, this is early stage, and we do want to talk to everyone that comes into the platform now. So we get a lot of good feedback, um, and we get really valuable discussions. I also come from, I mean, at Melkor, I was selling direct sales. I was talking to customers. I was demoing the tool. I do understand that all companies does not want to talk to me or a salesperson, and they want to come straight into the platform, and they can do a lot of digital onboarding and get started straight away, because our tool and platform is really doesn't need a lot of onboarding. You can get started straight away. So I think that is definitely something we are aiming for. But I think at this early stage, we decided that we wanted to talk to customers first. But yeah, it's coming soon.
Okay, all right, exciting. And I also noticed that you have a dynamic pricing. Is your ICP kind of more mid-market, more enterprise customers, or why did you decide on the pricing?
Think of it like, if you're 10 people and you pay, let's say, 1,000 euros for that, it's not that you are um like shocked about that price, right? It's quite decent price. But if you're like 500 employees, what would that be? 50,000 euros is quite big amount of your budget, actually. So I think that is how we see it. Like, what are you what are you willing to pay, kind of. And I think for a small startup with 10 people, 1,000 euros, it's quite decent to make a decision to go with it. But if we sell it to a company with 500 employees, we really need to discount the number of users. So that's what we have done here. So I think it's also a lot easier, like, to have like a digital lunch and learn. I can have it towards 500 people, and I can have use the same hour to onboard 10 users. So I think for us, volumes matter, and it's more scalable as well to onboard more users. So yeah, with that said, we are targeting medium-sized companies. So if you're a small startup, you should get started, sign up on the website straight away. And if you're like an enterprise, really big company, you might need, yeah, a lot of anchoring internally before you sign up for something like that. So therefore, we approach medium-sized businesses.
Okay. And how did you decide that this is going to be, your ICP? Um, is it just because you talk to every customer? Is it just a hypothesis for now?
I mean, it was a hypothesis starting to build a platform that this segment might be a very good segment for us to approach. And then we've been validating that hypothesis. So we've been talking to bigger companies, small companies, medium-sized businesses, and it seems quite right for us still to go for medium-sized companies. I think later on we might want to go for bigger companies, but those sales processes takes also a lot longer time, and we want to sell. I can talk to the CEO and close a deal within a few days because they want to get started. But if I talk to the CEO at a company with 1,000 employees, it's not going to happen. So yeah, we're finding our way still, but medium-sized businesses is still kind of right fit for us when it comes to sales processes and getting started straight away and so on. And also goal setting becomes goal setting becomes quite a headache after 20-25 people. So yeah, somewhere after that I would say is really good to invest in NOQX.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about goal setting because, I think I think it's absolutely right. Like the bigger the company, the more difficult it might be to set goals that make sense for everybody. So, what from all the talks with the customers that you've had, what are the most challenges that companies have with goal setting, and how do they affect the companies?
So there is a fresh report from Deloitte saying that 70% of companies does not reach their goals. And there are many reasons why it is like this. But one thing I would point out is that you make goal setting way too complex. So, for instance, like I talked to some companies in the management team, they set like 10 to 15 goals. And that's a lot for the teams and the employees to understand. Like, is there like a hierarchy? Is one of the goals more important than the other ones? Are they equal important? Then you cannot remember them. So I think a good example could be if someone your friend tells you to buy three things in the grocery store, and they say like you should buy milk, bread, butter, and then they add a fourth item. It starts to get difficult to remember that fourth item. And I think it's the same with the company goals. Like if you add many company goals and many KPIs that you should track, gets confusing to remember, and you cannot remember what is most important. So that is one thing, that companies and management teams sets um, too many goals. And then inclusion as well. So if someone tell you exactly what to do and what your goals are, it's not very fun or engaging. So I think like OKRs, like objectives and key results, has a quite nice vibe to it, that it's a very inclusive. And when you set, 1 to 3 objectives on company level and 1 to 6 key results per objective, you say to the team, like now you see where the company is heading. What should your team do to support this? So you kind of outsource what the team should do to get to the goals. Yeah, there are so many so many things that companies can do better for sure
All
when it comes
right.
to goal setting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how does effective goal setting shape kind of the culture and the direction where a company is going? What do you see from companies adopting Knox?
So there are reports also on this, that employees perform a lot better when the goals are clear. So if you think about burnout rates, there would be lower burnout rates if employees would know what they expected of them. They will be more engaged in the companies. You will have more efficient leaders or effective leaders. You will have more employees that are happy working for your company, and you will have better performance. So there are reports supporting this. So I think that is something we want to help companies with as well, to have clear goals so that employees feel better about their work and show up and are motivated and work towards the company goals in the end. So I think what we are helping companies with is this umbrella, rather than KPI, different KPI tracking, different frequencies in company. We have an umbrella where you can have a direction for your company that is also inclusive and fun.
Okay, so what about you? I would assume you're using NOQX to set your goals. So, what is your maybe a hack or some tips, some tricks that help you set the goals that are sustainable, that are mindful of what is going on, and that are reasonable, that you don't get lost and you don't get frustrated because there are too many or they're just too much to handle.
We are using Nox at Nox, and I think in the small startup, what we are doing, we are setting up goals for the quarter together, and then we are kind of working in sprints towards that quarterly goal. But we are also not building Nox for ourselves, so it's really important for us to listen to customers because we are quite few at Nox. So we need to listen at customers as well. And I mean, all of our previous experience has been working for slightly larger companies. So I think listening into customers as well, because we have now the luxury to just write to someone on Slack and get something sorted straight away. But of course, we want to have a thorough process and use Nox ourselves to learn it inside and out. But we're also building it to, I mean, companies that are bigger than ourselves.
Okay, all right. So one more question that I wanted to ask you is, you are already talking to customers or users or potential customers, and that's kind of the that step that a lot of startups never even get to. So they develop a product that may not ever see a potential customer, and getting there and doing your marketing right and doing an outreach. So what was for you the channel where you found your customers or users, and how did you approach them?
That's a really good question, and I think when we developed before we start develop the platform, we had a lot of experience in this field, and we could see that this is not working properly in companies today. So I think that is of course something that all startups would do, right? Like do a little bit of research at least. But I think we really worked close to the problem during a lot of years, while there are these startup schools for younger people where you will research a market and you will come up with an idea, and you develop the product. So I think we started to develop after having a lot of headache with goal setting. And yeah, so I think initially we were talking to a lot of potential customers and showing them the idea, and everyone related to the idea, and then was like, yeah, show us the platform then. And then I think we did a really like detailed Figma sketch to show them exactly how it would work and if they would have feedback on that. And that is something we sketch out all of the time. Could it work like this? Like, we have an idea, and then we want to go the full way to sketch it out how it would actually work with the user, and then we test it with the user, and then we build it. So I think we are not building before we are testing it, because it's a lot faster to sketch it out fully in Figma than to start building it. So I think that has been one success factor that we been doing like really really detailed product sketches.
Okay, interesting. All right. But also we see a lot of startups that kind of get in this loop of customers asking for new features. We would have used your product if it had this. And a lot of founders get super excited, like, oh my God, like once we build that, the money will flow. And it kind of every customer asks for more. And then there is this Frankenstein that, never sees the light of day. So how do you work with feedback? How do you prioritize which feature is being built, and how does it align with your own vision of the product and roadmap?
That's a really interesting question as well, because there is this balance between having your own point of view, but also listening into feedback. And I think this balance is really important to get that right, because you also need to have a point of view. Maybe you are building something that the customers never seen before, but they will actually like it. If you would ask, if Henry Ford would ask their customers what they wanted, it would be a faster horse. So, that balance between having a point of view yourself on your vision, and also of course listening into customers to get validation. I often get validation from customers like, yes, this is the right thing to prioritize because now I heard it 5 times, so this is the right thing to do. So, and often like the feedback, you've been thinking about your product for a long time, 24 hours per day. So often the feedback you get, it's not something you never thought about before. It's more about prioritization, I would say. But it's nice to get the feedback because then you know how to prioritize. But it is really a tough balance to do so. And you said that if you get this feature in, I will sign. Then I would sign the customer and then start building it. That is something I would say. Like I got this feedback the other day. Is it possible to do this? And then I told this person that yes, it's actually second in line after another feature we are now developing, but I can reprioritize if you sign the contract. And then the other thing we had in line, we looked at that and he said, okay, I understand why you prioritize that. Because, yeah, it was slightly more important thing to launch actually. So, yeah, it went well and we understood each other. So having that dialogue and that the customer really hear that we are listening to them, I can show them in the roadmap when it's coming, and they will have understanding if other things would appear, and I can communicate how we're prioritizing and why, and that we are still listening to them. I think that is the best partnership.
Right. So transparency in customer communication. Yeah, that's super important. So I also wanted to ask you about fundraising, right? Because you just mentioned you raised a VC round recently. How did it go for you? Because the talks are nobody's really giving any new money. It's really difficult to access capital, and well, there is also the gender bias that we cannot not mention. So, what was your experience with it, and what moved the needle in your relationships with the investors that got you that round?
So I had like contact with them for it was not like a recent relationship, that I formed this month. Some of them I actually go way back in time with, that I worked with in previous projects and companies and so on. So yeah, I would say that I have like it was really like smart money we brought in, I would say. Like there is a existing relationship and we know how we will work together going forward. And we had paying customers, we had a product they could really relate to and that they love, and they can see, the potential over time. They want to be a part of the journey. So it was many. boxes that were ticked. Let's say it like that. And yeah, it's a tough market currently, but I think if you're able to show signed contracts,
Okay.
that's a good thing to see customers coming in.
All right. Yeah. So, okay. So, traction and a way to profitability. So, real money hitting your bank account. All right. That's great. Okay. So, just a couple more questions because, you're at the very beginning of your journey, but it seems like it's super fascinating already. But so far, what do you feel like already has been your biggest win and your biggest failure? And it could be for you as a founder or for the company.
So I would say getting paying customers and closing this capital round would probably be the successes. And failures, I mean, when it comes to failure, it's having a startup, it's up and down, up and down. Like it's mentally a lot of highs and lows. So you get a yes on your email, yes, we want to do this, and then you get another email with something that you didn't expected, and then you get really low. So it's a lot of ups and downs that I didn't expected, or didn't think that it will be kind of that kind of roller coaster. But I think failure then related to that is, I mean, we've been celebrating a little bit that we got paying customers in this round. We went out to have a lunch and talk and bond, but like celebrating victories, and that is a part of the culture thing. Like it's not really tangible, but we jump on to the next problem, like straight away. Maybe this is I don't know, like celebrate victories a lot more. We're
Okay.
quite eager to solve problems, so we just jump straight into work after we got a victory, I would say.
All right. So not enough time to reflect on what you just achieved.
Yeah. How would you do that, Anna? Do you have any tips for me there?
To celebrate what you achieved. Oh God, we just had this really great session with a coach that actually was talking about like healthy high performance and how important it is to celebrate the achievements. And basically he just said you should do it every time, and you should first of all allow yourself to have time for it, and then also make kind of a way to document it, put it somewhere where, when there is the next low, you can still go into kind of that folder and say, oh, you know what, but we're actually doing a great job. So yeah, that could be my advice as well. I also need to learn it, but yeah, it's great that you're at least, acknowledging it. So I think that's already a way forward.
That is that is great to document it, to go back and look at it, set aside time. And at NOQX, we actually have this part called celebrations. Because goal setting is about hitting your goals and to celebrate them. So we actually have this in our tool. So I got even more ideas now that we should definitely focus on this.
Absolutely. That's great. All right. So yeah, and another question is the again the usual one on the podcast is I'd like to ask you for a hack, right? It seems like you've got on a good trajectory really early on. So you got your paying customers, you raised around. So what would be your hack on getting this very early stage startup in front of real customers?
Oh, this is a very generic tips, I feel like. Very obvious one, but like execution, like either you work on contacting customers or you build the product. Don't do anything in between. I don't know what companies might do here, but they might, work on their fluffy vision. I don't know what companies can do, but really, really focus on building the product or selling the product. Only those two things, and execute every day. Like if you're working with sales, like I'm doing now, like can I send one more email? Can I call one more conversation? Like execution, get things done. I think if you try more things, quantity will kind of come with quality as well, because you learn more things. So I think like execution is everything.
All right. Yeah, I mean it seems generic, but sometimes you get lost in like the big vision and the vanity metrics and whatnot. So I think lately on this podcast, when I ask about hacks, founders tend to share kind of long-term strategy, which is about grinding and working on the product and focusing on your customers. So thank you so much for a reminder.
No worries.
And yeah, Sophie, I mean, it's been great talking to you. I mean, you're very early into your journey, but it seems like you're very focused and you know what you're doing. And it's exciting to see how it's going to develop. So I'll be happy to do it again next year and see where you're at.
Thank you so much, Anna, for having me.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for your story. And take care.